Welcome back to another Industry IQ explainer. Today, we're tearing into a massive, frankly structural evolution in how software is created. We're looking at the June 2026 Apple Newsroom announcement titled Apple Intelligence Frameworks and Tools for Future Development. Look, if you build applications, if you design interfaces, or even if you just track the trajectory of developer ecosystems, you absolutely need to be paying attention to this. We're talking about a complete reimagining of the developer's toolkit, integrating deep machine learning right down into the foundational level. So let's dive right in and explore exactly what this means for the future of the entire Apple ecosystem.
Okay, I want you to really let this question sink in for a second. What happens when the ecosystem essentially builds itself? Historically, creating software has been a highly manual, brick-by-brick endeavor, right? You lay the foundation, you write the boilerplate, you debug the syntax, and then you slowly, painstakingly construct your vision. But what happens when the environment you're building within actually anticipates your next move? What happens when the operating system has enough underlying intelligence to generate its own connective tissue? Guys, this isn't science fiction anymore. We are looking at a very real transition from acting just as a manual coder to operating as a high-level architectural director.
To really grasp the gravity of this shift, let's look at the exact wording from that June 2026 Apple Newsroom release. Frameworks and tools. Those specific words, they were carefully chosen. They didn't just say new features for Xcode or, updates to Swift. No, they are announcing entirely new frameworks powered by Apple Intelligence. This kind of language signals a massive structural overhaul. It grounds our whole analysis today in the reality that Apple is weaving deep, generative, and assistive intelligence directly into the bedrock of their developer environment. It's basically a formal declaration that the future of app development on their platforms is going to be an AI-assisted partnership.
So why is this specific update such a pivotal moment for anyone building in this ecosystem? Well, decoding this announcement tells us we're crossing a major technical threshold. Up until now, artificial intelligence in coding has largely felt like, well, a bolted-on accessory, something kind of clumsily attached to the outside of your workflow, like a third-party plugin you only consult when you hit a wall. But this update entirely flips the script. Apple's taking the raw power of their on-device processing and massive linguistic models, and they're integrating that intelligence as the glowing core of the SDKs you use every single day. This means your apps can become deeply context-aware with just a fraction of the traditional effort. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry for complex machine learning features while simultaneously blowing the roof off what a single developer can achieve.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. We absolutely need to make a clear distinction between a framework and a tool, because they serve very different functions in this new environment. The framework is the underlying architecture. It's the invisible neural network routing data and machine learning logic way down at the OS level. The advanced tool, on the other hand, is your steering wheel. This is the tangible window inside your integrated development environment. It acts as your intelligent assistant right inside your workspace, interpreting your commands and interacting with those deep frameworks on your behalf. Understanding this separation is key because it shows how Apple is attacking the problem from both sides, the invisible foundation and the visible workflow.
Let's break down the high-level focus areas that come directly from Apple's announcement. They've outlined 3 primary pillars for aiding app development. First up, we've got new intelligence frameworks. These give your apps the native ability to understand text, images, and user context, and you don't even need a PhD in machine learning to use them. Second, advanced development tools. This is about overhauling the actual software you use to write software, making it incredibly responsive and hyper-predictive. And third, app development assistance. Think of this as your friendly, super smart robotic copilot sitting right there in your IDE, ready to review code, suggest optimizations, and actually catch security vulnerabilities before you even hit compile. It can even generate entire structural components just from your natural language prompts. Together, the whole shebang forms an incredibly comprehensive support system.
So how does this actually play out in a practical everyday scenario? Think of it in 3 steps. Step 1, you adopt the intelligence frameworks. You just link these new capabilities into your project and boom, you instantly grant your app access to advanced on-device reasoning. Step 2, you leverage the advanced tools. You're sitting in your IDE and you use everyday natural language to tell your assistant, hey, build a secure login flow using the new biometric framework. And the tool literally helps stitch all that complex logic together for you. Finally, step 3, you deploy future-ready apps. Because you spent way less time writing boilerplate and far more time actually refining the user experience, you're pushing out a robust, highly intelligent application in absolute record time. It turns what used to be a scattered, multi-window coding session into a centralized, totally fluid conversation.
And that brings us to the absolute core of this explainer, the workflow paradigm shift.
We are not just talking about saving a few keystrokes here, guys. We're talking about fundamentally changing the day-to-day mental energy of a developer. In the past, you'd probably spend, 60% of your time wrestling with syntax, hunting down incredibly obscure bugs, and reading endless documentation? That left maybe 40% for actual creative problem solving. Well, this intelligence-assisted workflow flips that ratio entirely on its head. All those mundane, repetitive tasks, offloaded straight to the machine. Your role elevates from a stressed-out syntax typist to an architectural conductor. You're orchestrating high-level UI decisions with the wave of your baton, rather than getting completely bogged down in the weeds of implementation.
It really highlights the stark contrast between the two eras of software creation. Traditional development, well, that often feels like dragging a massive, tangled burden of documentation on your back while moving at a turtle's pace. It's super iterative, highly prone to human error, and demands constant context switching. Intelligence-assisted development, though, puts you on a high-speed rail network. It's accelerated, it's predictive. If you make a logical error, the environment flags it and suggests the fix in real time. If you need a complex animation curve, you just describe it, and the code is generated. The difference is literally night and day. It's the evolution from exhaustingly walking to your destination to suddenly having a sleek transport system built perfectly to your exact specifications.
Now, with all this automated generation, it's super easy to feel like the human developer is just getting sidelined, right? But the June 2026 announcement fundamentally rejects that idea. This technology isn't here to replace you. It's designed to act as a powerful exoskeleton for your creativity. Sure, an AI can generate the code to make a button bounce, but it takes a human to know exactly why that button should bounce, how that bounce makes the user feel, and how it serves the broader purpose of the application. The system provides the robotic muscle, absolutely, but you provide the creative soul. It entirely removes the friction between your raw imagination and the final compiled product.
Which leaves us with one final and honestly incredibly exciting thought to ponder. If we are truly entering an era where Apple intelligence frameworks are handling the heavy lifting of writing the code, constructing the boilerplate, and optimizing all that syntax, what are you going to design? When the friction of creation is just gone, your only limit is your imagination and your deep understanding of human needs. You're no longer constrained by what you know how to code. You are only constrained by what you can dream up. I want you to take that question with you as you look at your own projects today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries, and I'll see you next time as we continue to unpack the future of our industry.